When was the last time somebody walked through your church doors and said, "Man, this place feels like Elevation Church or Bethel or Hillsong"? And was that even a compliment? Because I'm not sure it should be. Today we're talking about one of the most uncomfortable questions in churches right now. When did we stop trying to be ourselves? Welcome to the Producer Seat Podcast. I'm Dan Wathen, and this podcast exists for one reason: to help church media leaders think like producers, lead with purpose, and build teams that actually last. So let's get into the topic today. And I bet a lot of you can relate to this. Let's say your pastor just got back from a big conference. Maybe he visited another church while he was on vacation, or maybe he spoke there. Or maybe he spent 3 hours over the weekend binge watching Elevation Church. Now he's fired up. He pulls you aside Monday morning. He's got his phone out and he's showing you all these screenshots, lighting setups, camera angles. I want to look like this. I want our church to look like this. And look, I get it. That stuff does look great. I mean, the lighting, the haze, cinematic cameras, it's super polished. It's powerful. It's world class. So you say yes to him and you do your very best to pull it off. Maybe you do. But here's the question no one seems to ask. Does this actually fit who we are? Because Elevation has a full production department, Bethel has camera ops who've been shooting that style for years. They have the budget, the staff, the training, and you're working with 3 volunteers on Sunday who also run the kids' check-in. I'm not being mean, that's just reality, and reality matters when you're producing ministry. So let me tell you something I experienced. A few years ago, I was volunteering at a local church, great people, great media team. But first, remember, I produce media for a living. That's my career. It's my profession. But that weekend, I was a volunteer, just like everybody else on the crew, giving my Sunday my time because I believed in what the church was doing. So we had just finished 3 back-to-back services, all volunteer crew. And if you've ever done that, you know what 3 services feel like. Your body's tired, your brain's fried. You've been making real-time decisions for hours, calling shots, solving problems, keeping it running for the people in those seats. Now, by the end of it, you feel something, not just exhaustion, but you actually feel pride in what the team just pulled off because that crew showed up. They worked super hard. They gave everything they had, and it was a good day. So we're back in the control room. We're coming down from the high, and the creative director walks in. He doesn't say great job. He doesn't ask how the crew held up. He doesn't even debrief the service. In fact, he doesn't even sit down. He pulls out a stack of printed screenshots he pulled from Bethel services. These were specific shots, framing, angles. And he said, "We need to look more like this." Then he left. No context, no conversation, no acknowledgement of what the team had just done. Just this huge stack of screenshots, and off he went. I looked around the control room. All these volunteers who had just given up their entire Sunday, most of them weren't even professional video people. They're just volunteers who got finished serving for over 8 hours straight. And they picked up those screenshots, they looked at them, and they were honestly confused because in the back of their minds, they had worked hard. They had done their best, and they didn't understand why that wasn't enough. And that moment really stuck with me even to this day. The direction he had given us was simple. He didn't want any cameras on tripods. He wanted everything handheld, that, moving cinematic look that Bethel does super well. But here's the thing about that look. Bethel's camera ops have been doing this for a long time. They've shot that style for years. It's a skill built through thousands of hours of reps, muscle memory training, feedback, and more reps. Our volunteers weren't there yet. And that's okay. They were volunteers, but handhelds without that skill level doesn't look cinematic at all. It looks shaky and honestly terrible. The hard truth, if we had just put those cameras on tripods and instead focused on clean composition, steady shots, intentional framing, it would have looked much better. It would have served the moment. It would have felt like us, that local church. But we were so focused on looking like somebody else, we couldn't see what exactly we had. Let's zoom out for a minute and take a road trip across the country. If you were to walk into 20 evangelical churches, tell me what you might see. Moody lighting, haze machines, similar stage setups, announcement videos that all look and sound the same. In fact, I wonder at times if these people actually share scripts with each other, right? And again, in the right context with the right team, these are great tools. But here's what happened. A handful of large churches figured out a production style that actually worked for them. And then hundreds of churches started copying it. Not because it fit their community, because it looked good, it was impressive. And now you walk into 20 churches and they all blur together. The same look, same vibe, same energy. The thing that made your church unique, the personality, the culture, the specific community God called you to, that's getting buried under someone else's production template. And God didn't create your church to be a satellite campus of Elevation. He created it to be itself. And here's something nobody talks about. People actually find goofs and mess ups kind of endearing. A speaker who loses their place for a moment, a camera that catches the wrong shot, a transition that's not perfect. Those moments actually build connection because they feel human, they feel real. Perfection creates distance in a way. Authenticity creates community. And I want to be super clear. I'm not telling you to lower your standards. I'm not saying sloppy is spiritual. I'm not saying stop investing in your craft. Excellence still matters. Serving your congregation with the best you have matters. Caring about the details actually matters too. What I'm saying is excellence looks the best when it's the best version of you, not the imitation of someone else. Picture this, a small church, maybe 200 people, simple worship band on a small stage. It's clean, tasteful, nothing crazy. Maybe they have 2 to 3 cameras, well-composed shots for the IMAX screen, steady, intentional, nothing you haven't seen before. But every shot's composed with care. Every cut serves the moment. The whole thing feels like exactly what it's supposed to feel like. That's excellence. That same church trying to recreate Bethel with equipment and skill levels that aren't there yet, that's a distraction. Use what you have. Use it with intention. Use it as well as you can. That's the producer mindset. Not chasing a look, but serving the room you're actually in. Hey, real quick pause here. I wanted to make you aware of a program I have for church media leaders who are stepping into or maybe struggling with producer level responsibilities. The program's called The Producer Seat, and it's not a course, it's not a video library, it's direct coaching, me and you together, real situations, real answers. Find out more at drwmediaworks.com. Now back at it. Okay, let's get super practical. You're the media director. Your pastor just came back from that conference. He's showing you the screenshots. He wants the look. What do? Do you push back? Do you just go along with it? So here's my honest answer. Number one, give it a shot. Don't dismiss it. Don't dismiss the idea in the room. Don't immediately explain why it's not going to work. Your pastor has vision, so let's honor it. Take what he's asking seriously and let's actually try to execute it. Because 2 things are going to happen. Number one, let's say it works. Maybe your team is more capable than you thought. Maybe it translates better than you expected. If that happens, great. You just learned something. Number 2, it doesn't land the way he imagined. So now you have something more valuable than an opinion. You've got proof. Evidence is always more persuasive than pushback. Once you've given it a genuine attempt, this is when you can have the real conversation with him. And here's how I would frame it. Don't walk in and say, man, pastor, that idea isn't working. You walk in and say, hey, what if the approach we've been building or this other direction was actually more intentional, more authentic? That's not pushback. That's a producer bringing strategy to the table. And it works because of something important, relational equity. If you're the person who usually says yes, who finds solutions, who supports the vision, who doesn't make every conversation a battle, then the one time you come in with a different perspective, your pastor's probably going to hear you out because you've earned that moment. So pick your battles, and when you pick one, make it count. I've worked with some of the largest churches around, some like we've been talking about in this episode, the ones you look up to, the ones you screenshot and bring to your team. But I want to tell you what it actually looks like inside those rooms. They're still figuring it out too. They don't sit in meetings and think, man, we made it. Look at all the people copying what we do. No, they're in there pushing, questioning, second guessing, trying to come up with something new themselves, something they've not done before, something that feels fresh. The churches you're trying to copy are trying to stop copying others as well. I've been in those meeting rooms. I've sat with the teams, and trust me, they don't have it all figured out. They're asking the same questions you are. You never make it. You never arrive at some polished version where everything's settled and the look is locked. The grass is not greener on that side once you get there, trust me. You're still searching, still reaching, still asking the same questions. So stop chasing a destination that doesn't exist. Instead, do what the best of them actually do. They take bits and pieces from different places, pull from churches you respect, pull from film, advertising, even in your own community. Let things inspire you, but don't copy any one church's look and call it your church. That's not vision, that's imitation. Vision is when you take all those ideas and run them through the filter of who you actually are as a church and come out the other side with something that could only be you. I want to reframe something for you because everything we've been talking about, this isn't just philosophy, it's an actual part of your job description. Every producer in television, film, podcasting starts with one question before anything else. Who is this for? Not what do I want to make? What looks impressive? What did I see someone else do? We have to ask, who is this for? That question drives every creative decision you're going to make. The format, tone, pacing, look, it all flows from a clear picture of the specific person you're producing for. A producer who loses sight of their audience stops making videos or films and starts making noise. Your weekend service is a production, and as the producer, knowing your audience is not optional. It's the job. So I'm going to ask you something directly. Do you know who your congregation actually is? Not the one you want them to be, not the one that shows up at Elevation. Who are the people that God's actually placed in your seats today? What's their life like on Tuesday morning? What are they carrying when they walk through your doors on Sunday? What do they need to encounter? What would feel foreign to them? What would feel like home? Those answers should be shaping every production decision you make. And here's the other part of it. It's your responsibility to pay attention regularly, intentionally, to step back and honestly ask, is what we are doing still reflective of who we are? Because things do drift slowly. One borrowed idea at a time, one conference inspiration at a time, and before long you look up and the production no longer reflects your congregation. It reflects a version of the church you saw on YouTube 18 months ago. Drift is not always dramatic. When you feel things getting off base, when something doesn't feel authentic anymore to who your church is, it's your job to say something. Not with frustration, not as a complaint, but with honor. Go to your pastor or your team and say, hey, I want to make sure what we're producing is authentic to our people. It's not talking bad about your pastor. That's a producer doing their job. The best producers in any medium are the ones who stay close to their audience, who protect the integrity of what they're making, and who are willing to raise a hand and say, hey, this does not feel like us anymore. You're not just running cameras and cutting video. You're literally like the steward of your church's authentic voice. That's serious responsibility. So carry it seriously. I want to speak directly to pastors for a second. In fact, if you're a media director, feel free to share this section with your pastor. Send him the time code of where we're at right now, because what I'm going to say, he really needs to hear. So, pastor, I understand the pull. You go to conferences, you visit large churches, you see something that really moves you, the lighting, energy, production, and you want that for your people. That desire comes from a good place. We all want excellence, we want impact, and we want your church to be taken seriously, and I respect that. But I want to ask you two questions before you go back to your team with those screenshots. Number one, who is your audience? Who are your people? Are they young urban professionals who live and breathe that kind of culture? Or are they more middle-class families in the suburbs or a small town who want something that feels real? Because here's the thing, a production style that works in Charlotte may feel completely weird in your community. And the people you're trying to reach, the ones who are not yet in your seats, they can feel it when it doesn't fit. They can feel it when the church is performing instead of being. Question two, what would actually move people closer to Jesus and take the focus off the man in the room? That's the question that changes everything, because sometimes the answer is simpler than you think. I've worked with large churches that have full moving light rigs, tons of equipment, and you know what they do during worship? They don't move the lights. It's simple, it's tasteful, it's intentional. They have the bells and whistles, and they choose when and when not to use them because it would distract from the moment. That's wisdom. That is producer level thinking. And here's something that should get your attention, Pastor. There is a culture shift happening right now that you can't ignore. In fact, the Washington Post recently reported a growing movement of young men, mainly Gen Z in their 20s and 30s, who are leaving contemporary evangelical churches and they're flocking to Catholic and Orthodox communities. Not because those churches have better production, not because the music's more current, it's because of reverence, simplicity, beauty that doesn't shout all the time. They're tired of the performance, they're tired of the spectacle, and they're looking for something that feels ancient, something that feels true, something where God feels bigger than the production. God's enough, the gospel's enough. Your community gathered together is enough. You don't need to compete with the big church across town. You don't need to outproduce Elevation. You don't need the haze in the motion lighting package, right? There's a profound value in being small, in being known, in being a place where people belong. The churches that are going to matter most in the next 10 years are not the ones with the best equipment. They're the ones where people feel seen, where the production serves the presence, where nobody leaves thinking about the show because they were too busy encountering God. So here's a question I want you to sit with. What makes your church actually unique? Not what you wish they were, not what other churches have. What's the specific thing that makes your congregation different? Maybe it's an older congregation with decades of history. That's a cool story. That's compelling. Maybe it's young, diverse, lower class community doing church in a new way. That's a story. That's compelling. Maybe your pastor's raw. He's a little bit unpolished. People show up because he's just real. Then the last thing you want to do is a production style that makes him look like everybody else. Your job as a producer is not to dress your church up in someone else's clothes. It's to make your church look like itself at its best. That's harder than copying a template because it requires observation, taste, and being intentional. But here's what it looks like when you get it right. It's a simple worship band on a small stage, clean, tasteful lighting, nothing crazy, few cameras, every shot composed well, every cut made intentionally. Nothing's flashy, nothing's borrowed, it's just you at your best. And people walk out of that room not thinking about the production. They walk out thinking about what God just did. That's the goal. That's always been the goal. Here's what I want you to do this week. Number one, ask yourself honestly, is there something in your current production that you've copied from another church that doesn't actually fit who you are? Name it, like write it down. Number two, identify one thing that is uniquely yours, one element of your service, your community, your culture that nobody else has. Are you leading with that? Are you letting it show? Third, if you're a pastor listening to this, before your next Monday morning convo with your media team, ask yourself that second question. What would move people closer to Jesus and take the focus off the man in the room? Let that be your production brief. You don't have to look like everybody else. You just have to be excellent at being you. The churches that are going to stand out in the next 10 years are not the ones with the best lighting rigs. They're the ones that figure out who they really are, and they had the courage to show it. So you have something nobody else has. You've got your community, your history, your pastor, and your specific corner of the world. Don't bury that under a production style you copied from someone else's Instagram feed or YouTube channel. Build something that's yours, something your congregation recognizes, something that feels like home.